Hello, good morning. Thank you to everyone who's joining this live stream today. Today we're going to be editing some pictures in Lightroom. I did a photo shoot with some friends, Zach and Darla, the other day. And it's their engagement shoot, but it's their second one that I've done for them, which is great. And we're just gonna go through Lightroom editing. Feel free to drop in the comments, tell me what you think. If you have any questions, let me know, and we'll just plug away at them. Also, I apologize, I do have a little bit of a cough this morning. Probably not Corona, because I had Corona like a month and a half ago. So if I have to step away for a second, that's why. But let's get on with this. Okay, so I'm in Lightroom. First couple things that I'm gonna do. When I start a shoot, I go through and cull all my images, and I've already done that, so we're not gonna do that in this video. And the way I do it is I just put them in quick collection, which you just hit B on your keyboard, or you can click the little circle on the bottom of each image. And I picked out 95 photos. So I shot, I think there was 3 here. I can check actually. Let's just put this on previous import. I shot 700 photos from this shoot, which is quite a bit, but I am only going to edit the 95 or whatever it was in quick collection. 95, yeah, cool. So anyway, we're just gonna get started. Something that I've noticed in a lot of shoots, which this photo pretty well represents, is at the beginning of the shoot, things are kind of awkward. I feel like the couple is generally a little uncomfortable being in front of a camera, and that's totally fine. About 10 minutes in is when things start to get really good, in my opinion. So we're just gonna go through. What I would normally do on a photo is I would put one of my presets on. So if I want to just glance, this is my 2020 preset, and then this is my 2021. It doesn't change a ton, but it does change a little bit. I'm actually not gonna do that step today because I want you guys to see editing from the beginning, because just throwing a preset on isn't useful to you, even though it might be useful to me. So I'm just gonna edit one of these photos. Actually, I'm gonna pick one of the photos that I like a little bit more, and I'm gonna edit it to what I want it to be, and then I'm going to put those settings on all of the images and then go through and touch them up. So I'm just gonna jump ahead to this one. Or maybe the next one. Nice. So I'm just gonna edit this photo color-wise to what I want it to be, and then I'm gonna slap those settings across all of the images. Great, so I'm gonna start with my tone curve. This is how I like to start with an edit. This is just a white tone curve, and this will help me get a little bit more control over the brightness of the image and also the different way that the colors look together. Thank you, Rock Fallen. I really like the bridge photos. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pull down the highlights a little bit and curve off the whites at the top. Something that a lot of people do is they do an S curve, so they'll do this, where they'll push white up and dark down. It just adds more contrast. I like to have a lower contrast image, so I'm gonna be really gentle with that. And then I am going to pull up the black end just to give, I like to aim for kind of a film type look, so a little bit of a faded dark end. I also feel like I do slightly darker images than a lot of people, and I just like the way that looks, but that changes for everyone. So once I've got my tone curve, the other curves on here, the red, green, and blue, I might touch, especially if it's if the colors are changing their skin tones too much. But for now, I will just leave them. So now coming back up to the top, I'm gonna pull down my exposure. Probably a little bit more, actually. I'm trying to get as much detail as I can out of the whites, and that's what I'm gonna set my exposure at. And then to make up for that, I might boost the shadows and boost the blacks a little bit. And then even more so, I'm gonna pull down the highlights and pull down the whites a little. I think it just gives us a little bit more detail in our image. I might, let's see. play with contrast a little. There's not a ton of color in this image, but I don't want the color to pop too much. So I'm going to drop saturation, but then boost vibrancy. And not a ton. You can really easily overdo this. So I'm just going to give it a touch. And then we're going to go down to an HSL color. And I'm just going to get... Actually, wait, before I do that. This is not actually white. This is more blue than white. You can tell even from the color of my cursor. So I'm going to adjust for the white of the image. And generally I would adjust based off skin first. But because it's snow, you kind of have to adjust based off the white of the image first. And I might actually bring the highlights back up a little bit because it's getting a little flat. Like the white isn't quite actually hitting white. But that's looking decent. Maybe creep this down a tiny bit. So that's looking decent. Here's the original. And then here's where we're at. It's just a little smoother and warmer. We are definitely not there yet, but we are making our way that direction. Something I'm noticing is that the whites actually look a tiny bit red. So I might come in here and just pull the highlights just slightly. Nope, not that. It's actually closer to in here. It's doing that. I might pull this. No, we're gonna leave it alone. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Look, that's what we want. Definitely not. Okay, so I'm gonna scroll down to my HSL area and I'm just gonna play with these. So the easiest way I've found to figure out which color channels I should be editing is I take one and I throw it both directions so that I can see it fully saturated and fully not saturated. And for this, I might zoom in a little bit just so I can get, because there's not any color around the edges. So I want to see where my colors are happening the best. So I take my red and I toss it all the way both directions. It's mostly getting edges of things and then a tiny bit on their faces. So I might just leave that fairly neutral. Orange is going to be the majority of the color in this image. Yeah, it gets the back and their faces and everything. So I'm going to make that just a little bit of a boost because I want to push the color a little. Yellow. So yellow is going to be pretty key for us because not only is it going to be in the plants close to us, but it's also going to be a lot of, they're both blondes. And so later on, the yellow is going to be really important. So I'm going to have that boosted a little bit. Green, I'm just going to pull down a little bit because there's not really any green in this photo. And so I don't want anything to distract. So I might just pull it down. Aqua, not much happening in the aqua channel. Blue, it's mostly only his jacket. Now, his jacket is very dark. And so I'm going to desaturate it a touch. Then I'm also going to bump over to luminance and boost the brightness on his jacket a little bit. Just to make him pop a little bit more. Like that. And then with purple, purple is mostly going to be, in this photo at least, whenever something's out of focus, you get a tiny bit of a purple ring around it, as you can see when I boost that. And so there's not really any purple in the places where it matters. Maybe a little bit in her hat, a little bit in the snow, but not really. So I'm just going to pull down the saturation on the purple a bit. And magenta, there's not really much going on at all. There's a tiny bit around the edges here, but not a lot. So we'll just leave it pretty centered. And we're going to skip the color grading for this one. My Lightroom automatically sets sharpening to 40. I don't love that, so I'm going to pull that down to about 20. And I am going to push noise reduction up a little bit. The easy way to check if you're actually doing noise reduction the way you want is find a really dark part of the image on this viewfinder. So the darkest part of the image is probably going to be her jacket, actually. And if I boost sharpening, I can really see it where the dark meets the light right there. So that's kind of where you can tell where that's happening. And then noise reduction, there's not a ton of noise in this picture because I did shoot it at 400 ISO, but I like to just put in a little bit of noise reduction just to smooth things over a little bit. I think that's gonna keep things really smooth. I might even boost noise reduction a tiny bit more. Yeah. So there's our detail section. Coming down to lens correction. Okay, so I probably should have started with this first. I'm going to click on Enable Profile Corrections. It's going to change the way this image looks entirely, or at least around the edges. Whether I use lens corrections or not is kind of up to the image. Sometimes I like having it warp around the edges a little bit, sometimes not. But in this one, I think I will leave it on, and then I'll add a vignette later to kind of, because it does that vignette built into the lens, but I'm actually wanting to control it a little bit more. And then also with distortion, you can warp it back towards you, which kind of creates a flatter image. I am probably going to leave it centered. Actually, let's just center that. Let's try auto level. Great. Auto level killed it this time. If I wanted to make sure that it's level, actually, yeah, I'm going to do this just because I have the wood here. I'm going to go to guided, and I'm just going to pick a line and draw a line this way, right through the middle of that beam, and then here along this edge of this beam, and it'll square it up for me. Let's see how that looks. Nice. So this is the original. This is with it squared up. It's actually like, it's interesting because technically this is square, but also the way that I shot it wasn't quite square anyway, so it kind of looks odd. So I might just tweak this manually like that. That feels better to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too nitpicky about this image, but. And let's see, let's get them perfectly centered just because that's the way it was shot. I'm also looking, I didn't really use rule of thirds in this image, but I am kind of looking at my thirds and putting that third line right along the bottom of the bridge where their feet are. Yeah, I didn't strictly use rule of thirds in this image, which is fine. Okay, cool, where are we at? So we've got our tone curve, we've got all of that. Okay, so with vignette, I'm gonna add a bit of vignette, and I'm actually gonna make it full darkness just so I can see where it's at. And put that, and then feather it all the way. And so obviously I'm not gonna leave it like this, but it's good to just do it full darkness so you can see exactly what it's affecting. I try to keep it entirely off of skin tones, no matter how big the person is. So if the person fills the entire frame, I'm gonna put a tiny vignette on it because I don't want to affect skin tones at all with it. You can tell if someone's close and you have a hand vignetted but the rest of their body's not. You can absolutely tell the difference, and I don't want that. You definitely got your grandfather's eye for super nice photos and editing. Thanks, Dad. You know you're succeeding when your dad is watching the stream and commenting. Thank you. Rockfall, and the tiny rotation makes a notable difference. Cool. Awesome. I'm glad you agree. I think with flat objects like this, it's pretty important to make sure it lines up, so I'm happy with how it looks. Anyway, so I'm going to add just a tiny bit of the highlights back in through the vignette, and then I'm going to pull the vignette off quite a bit. Like, probably there. Let's zoom out and make sure that's decent. Maybe a little bit less even. It's hard with snow, because snow is more noticeable when it has a vignette on it. And so, I don't want to distract with my vignette and my effects. I want to add to the image. I always want to add to the image, and I don't want to distract. Actually, that's pretty much my philosophy for shooting weddings and every event too. Like, you don't want to distract, you want to add to it. So, anyway, just a little plug for my thoughts there. Okay, let's see. Just because I like warm images, we're gonna boost this up a tiny bit. And then I'm gonna go back through and just check all my settings, make sure there's not anything I missed. I Personally, don't use dehaze very often. I'm not going to in this circumstance at all. A lot of people use it. It's great in some circumstances. It can also be very overdone. I'm actually going to pull up the blacks just a tiny bit more. I want the black of her jacket to look more gray than black, but not that much. Maybe right there. That feels good. Gives it a nice soft look. And then I might just drop the overall exposure a tiny bit. Yeah. I think that's a good starting point. And now let's put this setting on all of our images, and then I can easily go through and change each image as we go. I just wanted to get a decent setting. And then I'm going to compare this by glancing over here to, not that one. Not that one either. Yeah, so it's just a little darker, but that's okay. I just want to compare it to my presets to make sure that I'm editing in a similar style across my entire brand. You want to brand well, and so you want your editing to look the same for the most part. This is a good starting point for this shoot. I'm calling it. So, I'm going to select all my images. And I'm going to go to the image that I just edited, which was this one. And I'm going to hit sync. Make sure that local adjustments, like brushes and things, are not selected. And then I want to make sure that we're not transforming, because that would warp all the images the same way, which wouldn't make any sense. Unless you have unless you always shoot at a slight angle, but that's another thing. So I'm just going to sync those. That's going to take a minute. So we're just going to wait. It's actually going pretty quick. See on the top left? It's moving. If you guys haven't checked out my church editing video, I feel like that's really useful for dark situations. This is all light situations, but if you're looking for how to edit in a really dark space, it's on my channel, so go check that out. Okay, cool. Let's jump back in. I am going to just start from the beginning. I'm gonna deselect all of my photos. That's not right. There we go. Select none. Okay. Let's just hit this hard. So I'm gonna bring down the exposure on this one. It's a little too bright. It's a lot of white. It was not a very interesting day sky-wise, and some people would go in and replace the sky. I'm probably not. I don't think. I like capturing things the way they are, and I don't really want to mess with that too much. That feels good. And I'm gonna put a little bit more vignette on this one, I think. Actually, let's see what the... Yeah, I like the lens vignette. Lens vignette looks different than the vignette in Lightroom. And honestly, I am not entirely sure how to lock that in, but... Or not how to lock that. I'm not entirely sure how to articulate the comparison between the two, but they are different. Zach Besky votes, I vote to replace the sky. We'll see, Zach. I've got an interesting thing here, because you're the one in this photo, so I probably should do what you want. We're gonna do that in Photoshop though, not Lightroom. So we're gonna leave it for now, and I might replace this guy. One thing I've thought about doing, actually, is I might be overlaying a couple snowflake shots over these, just because it would look really nice, but I don't want to overkill. I feel like it can get really, I don't know, it can get really fake that way, so later on I might be doing that, but I won't be doing that in this tutorial. Sorry guys, I know, disappointing. Okay, cute. Look at them smiling at each other. We're just gonna square this. Oh, look, it's the spinning wheel of death. Okay, just gonna square this up like that, and we're gonna make sure they're nice and centered, and they pretty much are. Put that third line there. Freaking adorable. So cute. One thing I just noticed when I came in like this is that there's quite a bit of purple around Zach. So I'm going to go to my color channels. Oh, they're closed. That's why I couldn't find them. I'm just going to pull down that purple a little bit. And the magenta, because that's the other one. There we go. Nice. I'm liking how that's looking. Let's see. I might pull down the exposure a tad, but not too much. And then I think I'm going to boost the shadows just a tiny bit more too, just to get more detail out of there. Rockfallen says the sky needs more dragons. Great. I can't draw, so I'm not gonna draw a dragon in there. But thanks for the feedback. I might touch the dehaze a tiny bit and bring down vibrancy to make up for it. Dehazing also definitely increases your saturation point, so you want to be really careful with it. No, we're not going to use clarity in this photo. Let's see how much gray I can get away with while still making this look decent. If I boost this, ooh, I like that. I like that. It's kind of low contrast, but at the same time, we've got bright white and a black coat, so it still looks decently high contrast because of the type of image it is. I actually like that a lot. Something that I do that might be a bad habit, but it's just the way I work, is sometimes I will just copy and paste as I go, which is great as long as you're really wise about it, because what can happen is if you start editing one picture and then you copy and paste it as we go, it will continually edit your images further from the original, and so you'll end up with an album that looks like a gradient. You'll have like vibrant on this side and gray on this side or something like that, and you don't want that. So okay, but I am gonna do that with this picture. After that huge rant about not doing that, I'm gonna do it because I'm a rebel, because I do really like the way that looks, and that's super not straight, so we're gonna fix that. It's hard because I'm pretty sure that I was unconsciously straightening for the slope of the hill in the background, not for the sidewalk. So I think that that's kind of what I was subconsciously doing when I was shooting these, but that's okay. Let's see if we can get a little bit more foreground. Like that. Now he's a little off. There we go. Cute, cute, cute. This is super nitpicky, but I'm just gonna quickly use my heal tool and pull these dots out of there. Did I need to do that? No. Definitely did not. There we go. Computer's running a little slow today. That looks great. Next. Yes. This is the one. This couple, and I can say this because Zach's listening too, and I can see that he's watching, but they're a little dorky. We like dorky couples. I might pull down the red a little bit just because my lips stand out a lot in this picture. There we go. Honestly, I'm not gonna do much with this picture because this picture is just like a fun one. It's not a print picture. Although, mask. We are going to hide the mask tie like this. Let's see how well that. Yes, done. No mask. Boom. Gonzo. And we're gonna have to do that on a couple of these images actually. About 3 minutes after this, I asked her to put her mask all the way in her pocket. That's not helpful, Lightroom. Sometimes it just pulls from random spots and I have no idea what it's trying to do, but I'm actually going to stop right there because the bottom part of that is actually her zipper. And yeah, I don't know what Lightroom's trying to do, but it's incorrect. So I'm just gonna manually line this guy up. A little bit to the right. There we go. Nice. Let's see. I think I'm gonna twist this just a little bit. Since you can't see the ground, it doesn't actually matter if the ground is flat. I want the horizon to be flat. Nope. That looks weird. Bringing it back a little. I'm just gonna cut the difference. There we go. Nice. And same thing here. We're just gonna paste the settings from last time and maybe crop this in a little bit, but I'm not gonna do anything else to this one. The mask's not showing, so that's not a problem. We're just flying through some of these. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna actually, the couple edits that I made on that one photo, I'm just gonna apply to all of them. Because the edits that I made is I basically just made the dark end softer, and then I made the entire image a tiny bit darker, and I love the way it looks. So we're just gonna sync all of those like that, and that's gonna save us some time. If I wanna get really nitpicky, the snow is not the cleanest here, and so I might go back later. I'm not gonna bother you guys with it in the stream, but I might go back later and just pull out some of these spots. I don't think it's 100% necessary, but at the same time, you wanna do the best you can, and I think that's gonna clean up this side at least. This side has grass, and that's fine. But ouch, but true. Zach said, "Ouch, but true." I think. Are you talking about the comment I made about you guys being dorky? Because that's not an ouch. That's a compliment. Dorky's good. For those of you who don't know, Zach was my best man in my wedding, and I'm his best man in his wedding. So it's okay. This is a normal interaction. Okay, moving forward. This one is a little bit cockeyed, so we're gonna fix it. Twist it that way. I'm also gonna bring it in a little bit. Nice. Easy. Moving on. This is adorable, but exposure's a little high, so we're gonna pull down the exposure and crop it in just a touch. Like, actually more than a touch. We're gonna crop it into there so that his eye's on the third. And then this blue in the background is really distracting to me. So we're gonna get rid of it. We're just going to use our heal tool. And we're going to select this. See how well it does. Close, but not quite. Let's pull from there instead. That's not gonna work either. Oh, you know what? Pull from this side. I bet that'll look better. And with snow horizons like this, you just gotta be really careful and try to line them up as best you can. And then one trick that I found is that you can actually go back in. So this is a noticeable blotch, right? But if I go in and instead of selecting this, I actually paint just the line like that. And copy it over from there. Actually, one second. This might make it easier. Let's shrink this down. Just this piece. There we go. That cleans that up a little bit. Still not quite there. Maybe this to be a little lower and a little bit this way. Zach said, "Oh, okay, thanks." Okay, and then I can also clean up the edges of this spot. If it's not spot healing well, you can just kind of draw around the edges. That's not what I wanted. Can't see it. Nice. Got rid of that blue thing in the background. I think it was a sign. I'm pretty sure it was a Carleton College sign. Okay, moving on. Next photo. Same thing. Just gonna pull down the exposure. Cute. And paint over this bad boy. All the painting. So much painting. Gone. Done. Next. This one, was this the one we edited? No, this was not the one we edited, but we were close to it. Let's see. Keep it nice and centered, and we're just gonna... Oh, you know what would be better than... I don't know why I didn't do this the first time when we were lining stuff up. I'm gonna line it up based off the windows in the background, because we know for a fact that those windows are straight up and down. They build buildings correctly, so... I'm getting lost over here. Detail, lens correction, transform. Here we go. I'm going to use guided transform, and I'm just going to draw lines along this windowsill. The longer the line, the more accurate, but these windowsills are pretty small, so we're just going for it. And the bottom of that line. Let's see how that looks. You know, it looks pretty good, but still, it's a perception thing. I feel like a little bit of a twist this way will look better. Yep, I like that a lot better. You know, this one, there's a lot of contrast going on, so I'm actually going to pull down the contrast a tiny bit still. And then I'm also going to vignette it more. Not that much. Cut the difference. Or maybe vignette it more and then add in some more highlights. Yeah. Once again, I don't want my vignette to overtake the image. I just want it to add to the image. And then another thing I might try with this one is I'm going to create a virtual copy and throw it into black and white and see how it looks. It's not bad. I'm gonna have to do some adjusting for sure. In black and white, I want to boost the black a little bit, drop the highlights a little bit. I almost want to make it a flatter image too. More of a gray than a fully black, fully white. I do want it to go all the way up to white though, like that. Like that. And then let's play with this middle range just to make sure that we've got good exposure on their faces. I like it down a little bit. Nice. I like this image in black and white. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. Color or black and white? Which one's better for this? My camera is shutting off on me. Don't do that. Okay, so tell me what you think in the comments. Black and white or color. I'm gonna deliver both. That's something that I do with all my clients is I will deliver a color and black and white of every image unless it's an image that's absolutely not good in color. Like if you've got colored lights during a dance or things like that, sometimes you just want to put it in black and white because you don't want to deal with correcting purple on 20 people's skin. Rock Fallen says color has higher contrast. It does. I think it looks better with the higher contrast in color and the lower contrast in black and white. And John Grant in the Western Review says color. Okay, cool. Well, we've got color is the winner there, so. Moving on. With this one, after we get past the spinning wheel of death, that's what I call the little loading symbol of Apple, if you're wondering. I'm going to line them up on the third, just because that's how this image is supposed to be composed. We're going to put them right in the center of the third. Actually, no, we're going to put them on the upper edge, like that. And I think I'm pretty happy with that image. I think I might come back in later and pull out the end of this branch because I don't know why, but it's distracting. Just the part that's in the snow. But I'm not going to bother you guys with that. It looks like a little lightning bolt through the snow, so that's why I'm thinking that might need some editing. But that's just healing, and I might even do that in Photoshop instead. Same thing here. We're going to twist it and crop it in to put them on the third. And that's pretty much it. Just like that. Crop into the third. Awesome. Looks good. And this is the image we started with, which we ended up drifting entirely away from, but that's okay. That's how these things go. So this one's already cropped and lined up because this was the one we started with. So we will just leave it. Moving forward. Nice. Okay, we're getting into a little bit more interesting texture type poses. And like I said, the beginning of the photo shoot is always a little bit more uncomfortable. As we go, it gets a little bit more, they get more comfortable with the camera. And this is true with every client. They always get more comfortable in front of the camera. So personally, I like the photos from the middle to the end of the shoot the best. Every time. John Grant said, interesting to watch this artist work all these fine details. Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you very much. Sorry, I should not be an Elvis impersonator. Ever. Okay, I like the way that image looks. I'm wondering if whatever this is in the background is going to be distracting. It's also going to be hard to edit that from... I'm just going to go for it. We're going to see how this looks. This might end up looking worse than it did before I edited it, so... This part, not the image overall. We're going to try it, see what it looks like. We're just going to use our heal tool, see if we can pull out this blob. It's definitely not going to work from there. Don't know what you're doing, Lightroom. We're going to pull from down here. Yeah, maybe. If we get this railing to actually line up, like, not quite. Close. There we go. If we get the railing to actually line up, and then... No, I don't think it's going to work very well. So, I'll pull this into Photoshop later and pull out those. But also, they're not that distracting. I think you'd be fine to just leave them in this picture, honestly. But I think I will. I'll pull it into Photoshop later and edit those out. And that's basically all I use Photoshop for, is editing things out of pictures. I do all of my photo editing in Lightroom unless there is a very specific thing, like if I'm adding something to a picture or if I'm removing something. And even then I try in Lightroom first, because if you can do it in Lightroom, you save yourself a ton of time and it still gives you a great quality product. Cute. This is an adorable picture. I'm gonna twist it a little bit more. It's hard to know with all of these lines that aren't actually straight up and down, but that feels good to me. Okay, we're getting to more pictures from the side. This is a little unconventional, but the way that I'm gonna straighten this image is I'm going to use my guided tool. I'm going to go from this corner of the bridge to this corner of the bridge, because technically those should be the same height. And then all of these lines are not actually straight, which is fun. But let's see, which one are we gonna run off of? I feel like this one right here is closest to straight. So we're gonna see what Lightroom does with this. Straight up and down, like so. That squares that up nicely. I really like that, actually. I'm gonna pull this in because I want them to be centered. Drop it down so we've got nice thirds. This picture has really nice thirds actually, because this middle third is the dark tree section, the top is the sky, and the bottom is the white of the bridge. Yeah, I like that a lot. And I might actually, I think I'm gonna bump the pink just a tiny bit. Or the tint. Yeah. Nice, and then, let's see, we're gonna have to straighten all of these the same way. Yes, a lot of an editor's job is straightening photos, but we love doing it. I find that the majority of my workflow is I edit one picture really well, I copy all the settings over all of them, and then the rest of it is just straightening, spot treating. Sometimes it's a little bit different, like if you're going from inside to outside, but especially with weddings, it changes a lot. But for the most part, that's pretty much all my job is as an editor. Straighten out that bridge. Wow, that changed the photo a lot. I like it though. And I do like having the tree in the foreground, but I am going to crop it a little bit just to make sure that they're actually centered. I might cheat a tiny bit that way just to keep more of it in the foreground. Like that. Looks good. And here, actually, we're going to come back here. Sometimes I wait until the end to do my black and whites, which is something to think about. I feel like it's an easier workflow if you do all the colors first and then black and whites, but I'm totally breaking my own norm here. And we're going to try this one in black and white. Thinking their faces need a little bit more brightness because they're decently gray. But I do like the lower contrast black and whites. So I'm going to make it a tiny bit lower contrast. But then I'm going to use this tool to find where the brightness of their faces are. And I'm just going to boost just their faces. And this gives it the appearance of higher contrast, but it actually is still pretty low contrast because this is not true black. That's great. And you can see on my histogram up here, I'm leaving quite a bit off of each end. Actually, I might not leave as much off the white end, but I do leave quite a bit off each end, and I'm okay with that. I think this picture was taken in transition between going sideways and up and down, so we're just going to get rid of it. B, to pull it out of the quick collection. This is adorable. When I'm on a bridge or a railing or anything like that, one of the things I love to do is have I want to say groom, just because I'm so in wedding mode, but I have one of the couple stand with their back against the edge, and then the other one come up and just go into an embrace. With them, I actually cued them to, I told Darla to put her hands on his chest and then come in for a kiss really slow. So that's what we did. And I really love the way that pose works. Rockfallen said, I would think you would edit differently for black and white to make sharps contrast pop more, like the trees behind them fade in the black a bit with color. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, yes, you can do higher contrast with black and whites. I personally do like the lower contrast look, but it's only because of the fact that right now I'm working with completely white and then very dark colors. If we were indoor, I would do higher contrast because it would allow for that more. But here, let's go back and look at that photo you're talking about. This one. No. You were probably talking about the other one. This one. I mean, either of them. If I boost the contrast, they kind of sink in, which I don't love. Also, this photo's this photo's not the greatest in black and white actually because it gets a little blotchy in the background, and so I'm trying to keep them fairly gray because I don't want them to just disappear into the background too much. Now, one thing I could do is if I really wanted to, with black and white, I can go through and basically just paint over just them, keep them the exact same, and then just adjust the background. That would be possible. So Anyway, we're moving forward. Forward. We were on this one. Cute. I am not going to have to do much to these couple of photos at all. Instead of boosting the contrast, could you somehow lighten the trees so the dark jackets pop? Oh, I see what you're saying. Let's try it. Easiest way to select the trees is I'm going to take it out of black and white. And we're going to go to our brush tool. And in the brush tool, greatest thing ever is this auto mask. It basically selects just based off color. And so if I go like this, it's only going to, here, and then show selected overlay. It's only going to select the things that are brownish tones. Obviously that wasn't the greatest, but if I just select the trees like this, and I have a really high feather on this, so it should look okay around them still when I do this. It shouldn't affect their skin tones or anything too much. And because of the auto masking, it does help. So see this, that right there is a great option, or a great auto masking. I clicked over here and it only select the dark parts of his jacket, not the blues or anything. Nice. We're gonna select this over here. Pull this from up here. It's also great for trees because it doesn't select any of the back or any of the white of the background. Because see, if I did that, obviously it's gonna select the white. Okay, so you're thinking if I boost the, actually I don't want to boost exposure. I want to boost shadows. So I'm gonna pull off, it's still selected, I just can't see it. I'm gonna boost the shadows and then lower the contrast of the trees in the background so that everything gets a little brighter. Might have gone a little overkill. Let's just do it a little bit. Like that, to make them pop more, and then throw it back into black and white. Yeah, I think lightening up the trees is an option. Looks pretty decent. Yeah, I think it looks good. Okay. Where were we? We were on this one. I might pull up the exposure on this just a touch. I feel like we're getting a tiny bit too moody. It's a balance because I feel like my style of editing is more moody, but generally weddings want a brighter picture. And I mean, this is an engagement shoot, so it's the same as wedding editing for the most part. So I might cut the difference and kind of go halfway in between my style, halfway between what couples will generally be looking for. And the other thing is that if I build my style a certain way, couples will seek me out for that because other people want that too. So that's just something to think about for your business. Like, if you're a photographer, what do you want your brand to be, and edit that way, because the more you edit that way, the more couples will seek you out for what you do instead of just because they need a button pusher. Okay, we are an hour into this, and I am working my way through. Okay. This looks great. Just gonna crop it in. I like putting him on the third. Love it. Actually, wait. Let's come back for a second. It's also a little twisted. I feel like somewhere in there looks good. And this one, let's see. Let's just center them. I like giving them multiple options. Some people will like this picture more. I like the one, personally, I like when you get the bridge when it's a wider picture, but some couples will really like these leading lines, and so I don't want to, if a picture is good, but it might not be my favorite, I still am going to give it to them, which is why I generally end up giving, 90 pictures, 70, 90 pictures for an engagement shoot. That can happen because if I'm doing an hour of shooting, I'm going to give them different versions of each pose. They can choose what they want the best. I'm not gonna give them every picture, but this picture, very nice. Not a ton I'm gonna do with it. Like, honestly, just with the settings that we went over in the beginning, I love the way it looks. It's nice and warm, it's nice and smooth. I might crop it in a little bit. I've got pictures later that include their faces. So for this one, I'm going to not include her chin. Nice. And then I am going to zoom in a little and just kind of clean up the thumb a little bit. Don't need to do a ton. Just gonna click here, click here. Nice, nice. And then I like to do a little bit of a diamond treatment on ring shots. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my brush, turn down the feather a little bit, and it is still on auto mask. So the joy of auto mask here. This should be a good example. Because I tried to show it earlier and it didn't work. If I select yellow, it only selected that part of the yellow, even though my brush is 3 times that size. It didn't select any of this, which is great. Let's see if it works actually. Let's just try to select the whole diamond like this. Yes! See, it grabbed all of the light parts. I also want the dark parts though. And then I might come around with an eraser and just clean up this edge because I don't want to get any of her skin in it. Like that. Sweet. So now that we've got the diamond selected, we'll hide the selection mask. I'm not going to touch the exposure. We're going to leave that at 0. I am going to push the highlights a little, make it sparkle. Push the clarity a little to make the dark parts pop a little bit more, because if it's higher contrast, you're also going to get more, it's going to look brighter overall. Tiny bit of dehaze, but also to make up for the dehaze, I'm going to desaturate because I don't want blue in the diamond. I want it to just look white. And then I'm going to push the whites. And this is where you really get that glimmering look. Especially because of the fact that it is a little feathered, so it's only the center doing it. Look at that. It just pops off the page. And we like popping rings off the page. Okay, let's make sure it's fully centered. It's not. I want it to be there, but I also don't want chin in it. Like I said, there's other pictures that have their faces in it, so there we go. That is a fun one. And because we're here, we're gonna throw a virtual copy, throw it in black and white, and let's try boosting the contrast on this one because of the fact that it's not outdoor. Well, I mean, it's outdoors. Because of the fact that it's not with a bunch of trees behind them and stuff, I am gonna try to boost the contrast and up the exposure. Very nice. Let's make sure that looks good. The other thing that you can do on black and whites is everything's very smooth, which looks great when I come over here and look at it in color. It's getting there. There we go. When I look at it in color, the smoothness is really nice. But in black and white, it's nice to add a tiny bit of grain. So I'm actually going to add in maybe 20-ish grain. It just gives it that old-timey feel. And when you zoom in, you can see the grain a lot more, but when you're out like this, you just feel it. You don't see it as much. Which is a lot like mixing bass at a concert. You don't want to hear it, you want to feel it. Anyway, sorry, just my inner sound engineer coming out. There we go. This one will keep zoomed out like this because of the faces. I think this is a really cute picture like this. I am going to check just to see where the ring is in the picture. Pretty dang centered. So I think I'm just going to leave it crop-wise. And I am going to pop in and do that ring treatment again. So, select the bright parts of the ring, select the dark parts of the ring. Let's look at where our mask is so that we can erase it off our finger as needed. And again, it's okay to take it a little bit off of the edge of the diamond as well because I like that it glows more from the inside of the diamond than the outside anyway. And, oh, that's not what I wanted. Go back in that menu. We don't want to bump exposure. We just want to push highlights. Tiny bit of dehaze, tiny bit of clarity. And whites, just to make it glow. There we go. Nice. Beautiful. I'm gonna do the same thing with the ring here and move forward. And my computer's lagging behind a tiny bit, but that's the joys of editing on a MacBook instead of an iMac. Wow, okay. Restarting that. I want to select this and this. Nice. Nice. And then erase from the edges, like so. Maybe even a little tighter. Okay. Let's unshow that. Exposure to 0. I'm gonna put highlights up, clarity up, dehaze up a little bit, not too much, saturation down, whites up. Right about there. I like that. Nice. Gotta love those ring shots. Cute. Okay. I'm gonna start by just pulling exposure down a little bit on this. I think I went a little bit overkill with the exposure. And then let's see if we can get any more detail out of the snow by pulling these whites down too. Doesn't look like it. I'll just keep the highlights really low. Flattens the image a little bit, but it also pulls a tiny bit more detail out. Also, the snow looks just slightly blue to me. So I might just bump this warmth a tiny bit. If in doubt, put eyes on a third. Nice. I'm happy with the way that looks. I might add a tiny bit more vignette, actually. Just to pull you into the image more. Same here. A little bit more vignette, a little bit less exposure. A little bit less highlights. Cut the difference. A little bit more exposure. There we go. I like that. There's something going on back here. Not even quite sure what it is, but we're just gonna heal this red-ish spot. Nice. I'm okay with the blue. It blends in back there, and I mean, that's what it was in real life. I just wanted to get the red out of there because it was pulling my eyes away from them. And just put his left eye on the third, like that. Nice. Moving on. Again, too much exposure. I think this photo might just be overexposed in general, but it kind of looks like they're backlit because of it, which I'm okay with. I think if I could go back, I would expose this a little lower and boost shadows more, but there's a certain point where you can't. I mean, if I pull this exposure all the way down, you can still see that there's white in this image. So you actually, there will be no more details found in that. In the whites. Which, I mean, also, to be fair, it is a frozen lake, so there's not many details anyway. But cute, cute, cute. This image is perfect. Don't need to do anything to it. Same here. I might just pull down exposure a touch. Oh, too far. A touch. And this is when you start to see, with pictures like this, remember we boost this yellow, because this yellow controls how much the image pops very quickly. I'm just gonna have it boosted a little bit though. Like that. Orange. Bring the orange down on their faces a little bit. Here we go. Nice. This looks good. One thing I might do just to draw more attention to them. Let's try it. I'm gonna use a graduated filter and just throw it across this image like this. And just pull, not the exposure, we're gonna put the exposure at 0. I wanna pull the highlights down a little bit. And see if I can just draw a little bit more attention to them without killing the image too much. Like that. Yeah, I like that. This is the original, and so this is just the out-of-camera JPEG. And what's happening is I'm pulling, besides all the color correcting I'm doing, the right side is very bright in this image. And so by putting that filter on there, it draws attention to them. It makes it a little bit flatter of an image, but then I can just boost the overall exposure a little. Somewhere in there. And it makes up for it. I think it draws your eye more towards them instead of having the right side just like burn your irises out. Bomb diggity. Okay, moving on. Doing the same thing here probably. Crop it in just a touch. And use that same filter on the side. And I am doing a slight angle. I'm also being really careful to completely end the filter on her face or right before her face. This part right here will be 100% affected, and then from here, it'll be from 100% at this line to 50%, and then 50% to 0. And so I want it to hit 0% before it gets to their faces and their skin. Because you can very easily distort people's faces if you put this too far onto their skin. Just tack off a little bit of white. Like that. And then, again, I'm just gonna touch the exposure up. I'm gonna go 0.6. Oh, that's not right. Negative 0.6. There we go. Nice. Nice. Okay. Because I have a building over here now, well, let's try it. Let's try that filter again. But because of the building, I have a feeling it's not going to look as good. Again, trying not to get the faces too much. Put the exposure at 0, bring down the highlights. And the whites. Not too much though. That looks fine, actually. That looks good on the building. I thought it was going to make the building look weird, but... I love this image. I love the branches in the top right that's framing it. I love the framing on the bottom with the bridge in the background and the tree. It's almost perfectly on a third already. I just need to crop it in a tiny bit so that right in between their faces is a third. And then also having the sliver on the far side of the tree. I really like this image. Okay. Let's see. Let's see if we can get his nose a tiny bit less red. shall we? So what I did is I just used the brush and I already have it auto masking, and I clicked on the red of his nose, and I'm just going to see if I can push this towards orange a little bit more by pulling the pink out and make it a little bit warmer. Your photographer did an awesome job with these photos. Thanks! That's me. I appreciate it. Nice. I think that keeps it from being a little too pink. This is the original, and this is now, so it makes it a little bit more orangey, which is a little bit closer to skin tone. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, I'm also going to pull down the vibrancy, or the saturation on his nose, just a touch. There we go. That matches his skin tone a lot better. Nice, 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 nice. Let's just frame them a little bit more. Great, moving on. Not much needs to happen in this picture. Again, it was a cold day. That's why I need to do this. Nope, wrong tool. Brush. Just grab the nose. Take the pink out of it. Make it a little bit more skin tone and desaturate it a touch. Done. Awesome. Don't need to do anything with this picture. It's perfect. Frame it, put it on the wall. This is my favorite picture, hands down. They were just being silly, and it was hilarious. And it also made them laugh. Here's one of the joys about being silly on a photo shoot. Making your couples laugh and being ridiculous is they do something like this because they're comfortable around you, and then they laugh about it, and you get a beautiful photo afterwards. So, just be yourself. That's all. That's all I have to say. Again, with the noses, we're going to make them just a little bit less red. I'm actually going to grab both of their noses with this one. Same thing. Gonna pull the tint a little bit towards green, push the temperature a little bit towards yellow, and pull the saturation down. Too far. Cut the difference. Right there. Makes them seem a little less cold. That is a beautiful image, and we're gonna try the next one in black and white. This one. In color, I love it. I'm not going to do a single thing to it. I like how I say that and then I think about things to do. But honestly, no, not going to touch it. I'm going to create a virtual copy, throw it into black and white, and here's what we're going to do. We are going to... Where's their faces? Their faces are right here. So then I want to boost the white above their faces. I'm purely gonna edit on the curve for this one because it's black and white, so this is all the controls you would ever need. I'm gonna pull them down a little bit just to give them a little higher contrast, but still keeping these blacks from going entirely black. It's still gray. And that, my friends, is all I'm gonna do with that image. I love it. Let's see. Let's pull down the exposure a little bit. Just because this is a more artsy photo, it's less, it's more about the ring than it is about them for this specific photo. I might pull the tint a little bit towards green because I can see that her fingers are getting a little cold, so they're turning a little bit red. Let's check to see where our vignette is at. I might add a little bit more not that much. A little bit more vignette. Actually, no. I'm gonna have 0 vignette, but I'm gonna use a filter on this side. And I'm gonna use that filter to just pull down highlights and whites a tiny bit. And then I'm gonna do a small filter over her head that's gonna do the same. Like that. And maybe even from this corner too. I'm just trying not to affect her skin. So that's the big thing I'm trying to do right now. And then on this first one, I'm actually gonna pull down the exposure a little bit too. Nice, nice. And then there's a couple specks in here, which we're just gonna pull out really quickly with our heal tool. And that is what the heal tool is actually for. It works great. I use it for some other things like pulling out bigger objects, but for small things like that, it immediately just removes them. Yeah, that looks good. I'm gonna be a little bit less picky about my ring treatment for this one just because the ring is a lot smaller in this picture. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna use the brush. It's still on auto masking, so I'm just gonna click on the ring and the exposure at 0, but bring the whites on top. A lot, actually. That gives it a really nice glow. That actually is a little bit too much. Let's back it off a little bit. Cut the difference right there. Gives a nice glow. And let's just look at our crop. I could go either way. I could center or do a third. If I did a third on the ring, that would cut out her face. And I really like that framing. If I do this, here, let's just put it slightly off center. Let's crop it in a little. Like that. I like that. Let's check our crop here. Oh, we've almost got it on a perfect third corner. We're gonna do that. We're gonna go right there and just drop it down too. That looks really good. Really happy with that. So I pulled down the tent a little to keep them looking warmer. We're gonna grab the ring and we're gonna just boost the white on the ring. About there. Make it glow. Awesome. Ah, yes. Okay, so then we found a waterfall, which is nice and pretty. Frozen waterfalls are the best. And I wonder if this picture looks better in black and white. It does. I think this is... I will give them a color version of this, but I think I prefer it in black and white. So let's pop that over there. Let's do the same thing with the curves that we did on the last black and white. I liked that. So what I did is I brought down these, technically they're shadows, not blacks. Brought up the blacks a little bit just to keep it nice and soft. And then I'm gonna bring down the whites and up the highlights a little bit. And then their faces, if I remember correctly, are right about there. But let's just use our little finder tool to make sure. Yeah. Because I don't want their faces to change too much. I want them to stay right about there. But I do want to boost some of this contrast. That. Nice. Beautiful. Our settings are working great on those images. I'm not gonna do much on them. Let's see. This is just snow, so I'm gonna leave the snow because it's very noticeably snow. And I might, let's see what it looks like if I crop them in just a tiny bit so that they're at the very edge. Then his hand kind of comes out of nowhere, huh? So either I have to crop it to there. Nope, I don't like that. Never mind, putting it back. Great, we're just gonna leave it. It's a great image. Kissing. I am gonna crop the top out a little bit because this, you can't really tell what this is, and so it's just kind of confusing. Rock Fallen. The photo with the blanket would be either cool or really confusing in black and white. Okay, wait, we gotta go back and look at it. The photo with the blanket. This one? This one. You've got to be talking about this one. Yes, I feel like black and white could get confusing with this because it would look like the hand's kind of coming out of nowhere. But, I don't know, could work. Who knows? I like it in color, so I think I'm just gonna leave it in color. Okay, we're over here. This looks good. I'm gonna boost the shadows a tiny bit. Same here. Boost the shadows a tiny bit. Ooh, I actually really like the way that we got the color of the building in the background too. A lot. I might grab the luminance of the orange on this and just push it up a little bit. So with white or lighter skinned people, orange is going to be your primary color. Actually, orange is the color in most people's skin tones in general. But what you can do with orange is you can easily like go lighter or darker with it to make their skin pop. So I'm just going to push it up a little bit because there are some shadows in their face and it kind of counteracts that a little bit. And when you're editing black skin or brown skin, it is generally better to push, if you push the orange darker a little bit, it actually gives them a little bit more vibrancy, a little bit more glow. If you push it the way that I just did towards the higher end, it makes people look kind of ashy. So when you're editing different skin tones, it's good to play with it and figure out what works for different people. And those are not laws, those are just rules that I kind of follow, so. Cute. There's a little bit less color in this one, so let's just see what it looks like in black and white. I think I'll do a black and white of one of these, but that's not my favorite one. That one's cute. She's laughing again. I think this one right here is my favorite of these, so I'm just gonna create a virtual copy, throw it into black and white. And my hotkey for doing that is V. And then I think I need to bring up their skin tone. It's a little dark. Oh, actually, let's do what I was just talking about because that would be an easier way to do this. I know you can't see the colors right now, but you know that the orange is their skin tone for the most part. So I boost to orange, it'll brighten up their skin. I'd love to see how the editing changes if your subject has darker skin. Yeah, Rockfallen, I think that that's maybe a future stream. Good idea. I have had most of my experience with, I haven't actually shot a wedding. I shot a wedding with some people who do have a little bit darker skin, but I haven't shot a wedding with people who are black or African descent. But I would love to. I've done a lot with people in church, especially with like worship teams, and so yeah, it's interesting how you edit in entirely different ways to get people's skin to look, because you want them to look natural, good, and glow a little bit. And with people with lighter or darker skin, you actually edit in opposite directions to generally get that look. I'm liking this in black and white. I do think I'm gonna get rid of, I think I have too many of these bridge pictures. So I think I'm gonna get rid of this one from my queue, because I like this laughing one better. And then the kind of stoic-y look we'll keep. We have a kiss, and then we have a vertical kiss. Yeah, that's fine. And this one, let's check our thirds. This looks promising. If I line these up on the third... Oh, then I lose the framing of the tree, though. Maybe not. We're gonna crop it in a tiny bit. But, then we'll just keep his head on the third like that. Okay, I, at this point, switched over to my 28mm for a couple pictures, so these are gonna look very different. and also darker. Let's glance ahead for a second. Yeah, okay, so I changed my exposure settings. So for these two, we're just gonna have to do some extra adjustments, but I like the way that the 28 is a different look. So let's just boost the exposure to start. It gives a little bit more rounded. It almost feels less real, and I like that for some shots. So contrast a little bit more. I'm gonna bring down the temperature a tiny bit, because I feel like their skin is getting almost too far. It's a delicate balance. You can see it like shifting. There we go. I like that. And then because this looks a little bit warped, I'm gonna just play with the distortion and see. Yeah, I like, so this is raw out of camera distortion. This is technically corrected, and then this is like overcorrected. But oddly enough, I like it straight out of camera because it gives a little bit more, it looks visually flat. Not color-wise, but like, it looks like a flat picture that you can hang on the wall. And then to make life easy on me, I'm gonna copy and paste these settings over to this one because they're like the same picture. I might boost the exposure a little bit more though, because this one is a tiny bit darker too. And then I'm going to just do a little bit of skin treatment right here. Cute. I like it. That's great. I don't think I need to do anything to this one. I feel really happy with how that one looks. Actually, you know what? I only need one of these. These are almost the same picture. So I'm going to get rid of this one and keep that one. I like the overlapping noses better. And this one, the exposure is just a little hot. We're going to pull it down a tiny bit. Actually, pull down the highlights. Yeah. Maybe even boost shadows a little bit more. Okay, we're back to my 85. That was just a short, brief 28mm stint. So, I'm liking how this is looking. Let's check where our vignette is at. Actually, instead of vignette, we've got, well, let's look at what we have at least. We've got a little bit of vignette. If I had more, it gets really dark in the top right. That's my only concern with vignette. So we're gonna keep a little bit of it, but then I'm also gonna take this filter and only grabbing the highlights so don't affect their legs too much. Just gonna pull it down. Down lights a tiny bit too. I just wanna make it less glowy. That looks good. I might push this warmth just a touch because I feel like the lighting has changed since the last set of photos. Nice. Same thing here. Gonna take this filter. Use the filter a lot for weird lighting situations. Because it helps so much and it's so easy. I love it. Then the lights a little bit, not too much. And I'm just trying to get it to blend with the rest of the snow. I don't want it to pop out because it's this giant chunk of white. And, oh, that landed right on the third perfectly, so happy with that. I like that one better than this one, so I'm gonna get rid of this one. We'll keep this one just because it's a different composition, because it's the wider one. And we'll just do this right here. Zero that out. Actually, just bring down the highlights. Bring down the whites a little. I might just touch the exposure a tiny bit there. Okay, time to get to my favorite photos of the shoot. These are absolutely my favorite ones. Just with our settings, I already love this, but I do want to make it a little bit moodier. So I'm going to drop the exposure a tiny bit, and I'm going to boost the contrast a touch. Let's see. I think I'm going to bring down highlights more, bring down whites a little bit more, and then boost the shadows just a smidgen. And I might make up for it a little bit in exposure like that. Same thing here. There's a lot of white over here, so I'm just going to select it and pull down the highlights and drop the whites just a touch too. And then the other thing is, and I'll probably have to do this on multiple of these, but this tag was showing. So we're just gonna remove this as best we can. Ooh, that's not good. That should look okay for me. Not quite. I might end up having to pull the tag out in Photoshop. Yeah, that'll be easier. I'll pull the tag out in Photoshop, so you guys won't be able to watch that, but that is okay. Pop it in a little. And then all of these photos are the same, so I'm just gonna copy. Actually, let's do this the easy way. I'm gonna select all of those and just sync the settings that I did with just this photo across all of them. Like that. And twist, crop. I want them to be kind of on edge for this one. Nice, I like that. Same thing here. Just need a slight twist. I ended up shooting some of these using the screen instead of the viewfinder, and so when I've noticed that when I use the viewfinder, I'm pretty spot on with my levelness, but when I use the screen, I do end up tilting a little bit. Just how I work, I guess. So I'll tilt it the other way a little bit. And this one's a little bit wider, so I'm just gonna grab these whites down here. Pull the highlights down, the whites down, make it a nice soft image. Nice. So freaking cute. I can't even do it. I can't. I'm going to square them up on this one because I've been putting them on a third and I want to vary it a little. Like that. And this one gets a lot more foreground, so I'm going to do the same thing I did with the snow. Just bring it back a little bit. Bring back the whites a little bit. Nice. I like it. I like it a lot. These were absolutely my favorite. All of the ones in this section are my favorites. And we've got this plant in the foreground, which actually kind of darkens up the snow a little bit, so I don't need to do the same filter on these. I'm just gonna crop them. If it'll load, there we go. Yeah, it looks really good actually. I'm just gonna crop this out a tiny bit. I think I want, there we go. I want this rock down here to be half, like that. It frames the picture nicely. I know that's super nitpicky, but it's true. This one got a little bit dark, so I wonder if my settings changed between this last one. I think it did. That's okay. We're just gonna boost this a tiny bit. And this was a natural moment. This was not a posed moment. I like to just keep things natural too, so. Third. Same thing here. A little bit of exposure boost. Great. Same thing. A little bit of exposure boost. At this point, we've locked in our colors enough that I'm not having to adjust any type of colors. It's just exposure. And again, if you're shooting a wedding and you're in different rooms all the time, that would be different. But this is just one location. And so our settings don't have to change very much. And you might notice that I actually, most of the time I shoot wide open at 1.8 with my f-stop. But with these photos, I actually opened it up to 3.5 just because I liked getting this whole area in focus. I liked getting, you know, a little bit of the water in focus and things like that. And I think it provided a really clean image. It also got this plant that's closer to me a little bit less blobby, if that makes sense. You get a little bit more shape to it. A little exposure there. Little exposure there. A little exposure everywhere. Cute. Cute, cute, cute. We're just flying through these because they're quick. Okay, let's see if these whites are salvageable. Drop the highlights entirely. Drop the whites entirely. Exposure a touch too. And just boost the shadows. Yeah, those are salvageable. I'm going to grab our vignette because they are in the middle of the frame, so vignette's the easiest way to darken the edges. Like that. I'm gonna just turn it all the way on so I can see what I'm doing. I want them to not be affected, so I want it all the way that way. And then just draw it. Nice. Great, we are getting near the end. We are nearing the end of our journey. Okay. A little bit of exposure boost. And again, with the ring treatment, we're just gonna come in, use our brush with the auto masking to select, let's see, show selected mask. We're just gonna select the parts of the ring, like that. And then we're going to use our eraser to clean up the edges so we don't get our finger. That looks good. Oh, just click the wrong thing. I actually don't want exposure. I just want to boost whites. And then I might also add some clarity and some dehaze to this. A little less saturation. There we go. Just makes the ring pop a little bit. And I'm gonna keep this centered on them. I know the ring is off-centered, but having them centered really makes this image look good, so I might even off-center the ring more like that. I like that. And I think I like this one more, but I'm gonna give them both of them and they can decide which one they like more. Okay, let's come into this ring. This ring has a darker section because of the way the light hit it this time. So the way we're gonna deal with that is we're just gonna select it, erase the edges. Oh, that's not the right tool. Erase the edges. So we're not selecting the finger. There we go. And I want to fix this dark spot first, so I'm going to boost the shadows a bunch. Shadows aren't really doing much. I'm going to boost blacks. There we go. I'm gonna drop the contrast to make it all kind of glow the same. And then I am gonna boost highlights and whites. I'm not gonna dehaze, because if I dehaze, it's gonna bring that black back out again. I might actually, no, I'm just gonna leave dehaze at pretty much 0. Add a touch of clarity to make it glow. And there we go. This is a little bright. Is it salvageable though? That's the question. I vote yes. Just gonna do our same trick, except this time I'm gonna grab more of it like this, the filter. Bring down the highlights and whites a little bit. A lot of it. There we go. And because I brought them down, I'm also gonna bring down the saturation, just because it is white, like it doesn't need to be saturated, and just push it a tiny bit warmer. I feel like that just disappeared. There we go. That looks nice. Just gonna copy and paste those settings over here to make it easy. Here, actually. Because these are almost identical photos, I'm also gonna grab this filter in the copy. Paste that here. Paste it here. Are they in focus in this shot? Yes. Okay, it just wasn't fully loaded. That's right. The prompt I gave them in this moment was, I was like, Darla, hug tackle Zach to the ground. So that's what's happening right now, if you're wondering. Cute. And then, of course, with every snow shoot, you have to have them do a snow fight. So I'm just copying my settings over here and crop it in a little bit. Super cute. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is a great picture. I love that so much. I might leave it this dark and then just boost the shadows instead so that the snow pops off the page like that. That is... She's just caught in a snowstorm. Awesome. And one more right there from the snow fight. I had Zach run towards me while she threw snow at him. It was great. Just a touch of brightness. And then, let's see. So I tried something different. I did need to expose it really dark because I was trying to get all the detail in the ring. So we're gonna see what we can do with this. I'm just gonna raise the exposure. Their hands are very cold, so we're gonna try to make them look not cold by just playing around with these settings. Let's see. Let's leave the highlights down like that. Maybe a little bit more in the shadows. And then I'm gonna add in some contrast because I just took away a lot of it by boosting the exposure so much. And I'm gonna crop in a tiny bit because I want the ring to be fairly centered. Okay, let's get into this ring. Okay, this ring treatment's gonna be a little different because first of all, everything's white, so I can't use auto mask. I'm just gonna use a mask, click right in the middle, and instead of boosting it to make it brighter, I'm just gonna make it higher contrast because it'll make it stand out from the snow a little bit more. Oh, not that much higher contrast. soften it a little bit, but also bring in more contrast. And this is a good time to play with clarity and texture. These are things I normally wouldn't do with faces, but with a ring, you can totally play with it and see what... There we go. See, that makes it stand out from the snow a lot more. That looks great. We are almost done. Home stretch. We got like 4 left. I'm gonna do a filter on the bottom. And we're just gonna pull down the highlights a little bit. I think I want this whole image to be just a tiny bit brighter. Maybe I just want the shadows to be brighter. Yeah, there it is. I'm gonna copy those settings. And crop them in so they're centered. And I'm gonna paste the settings over here, which was just shadow adjustment. It wasn't a big deal. There's that one. Paste the settings here too, which again I believe was just a shadow boost. And paste them again. Same thing. It's very repetitive, but it's worth it. Nice. Nice, 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 nice. And let's see what we got here. Just line up her eyes with the third. I might push this over a little bit just to make it more interesting. Yeah, I like it when they're on the left there like that. And that's our last image. Cool. So we're at 97 photos, including the white and blacks. I really like that. I'm gonna go through and just make a few adjustments, probably in Photoshop with a couple of those, just pull out some tags and some details, but overall, we're pretty much done. So thank you guys for joining me. If you want to see more videos like this, hit like, hit subscribe, tell me in the comments what you think about editing tutorials. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I'll check the comments for a couple days after this. So if you're watching this not live, feel free to still comment. And we will see you in the next video. Thanks for joining me.